Welcome to our annual Social Innovation Forum Showcase and our second virtual showcase. My name is Pavel Payano and I am SIF's Director of Community Mobilization. It's been great being a part of this community and planning my first virtual showcase with such an amazing and talented team. It's also very nice to see so many of you here online this afternoon, especially after the long and hard year we've all had. As someone who is passionate about social justice, I am really excited to see the impact SIF is having in Greater Boston and the surrounding areas. I'm also really excited to have you hear from our 2021 social innovators. All right, let's get right into our agenda for today. So after our overview of SIF, we're going to start with what we're all here for, which is to listen to our innovators. Then there will be an intermission with an amazing performance, followed by the pitches of our other innovators. We will end the event with a Q&A and a networking opportunity. Now we're going to move to some Zoom webinar logistics. And I want to acknowledge that this is our second webinar. And we really appreciate everyone for joining us today virtually. If you would like to use closed captioning, please click the CC button that's at the bottom of your screen. You should be able to turn on closed captioning, and if you follow the instructions that appear on the screen. Also in the chat box, you can share your excitement for the work and for the innovators. And know that throughout our presentations, if you have any questions for our innovators, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box. We're going to have a Q&A with our innovators towards the end of our programming. If throughout our programming you run through any technical difficulties or you have questions, you can email us at rsvp@socialinnovationforum.org. I want to thank Marcus Partners, Fidelity Charitable, Nutter, and our amazing event sponsors for helping make this event possible. Also, I want to thank our 2021 track partners for helping amplify innovative solutions that focus on some of our most complex social issues. We are very excited about 2022. We're going to have 8 tracks that range from youth civic engagement through the lens of experiential learning, health and well-being of women and girls, to economic resiliency for BIPOC communities. Thank you to our 22 track partners. We're eager to work with so many trusted partners. Make sure to look for materials launching in June. Now it's my pleasure to introduce SIF's Executive Director, Susan Mizinski. Thank you.
Pavel, thanks so much. And it's wonderful to be here for our second virtual showcase. Thanks so much for coming. We have a really extensive list of those of you who want to be with us. Before we get started, I want to acknowledge that I'm sitting in Watertown, Massachusetts, in the homelands of the Pequasit, one of the first bands of the tribe of the Massachusetts people. And I respectfully honor their memory and their ongoing presence as we set about our important work today. As we all know, it's been a year of deeper and deeper divides. Trauma, loss, pain, aloneness, violence, political upheaval. Need I say more? COVID-19 and racial inequality ran rampant in our community, in our world. And those living in low-income communities and in communities of color were by far the most impacted. It's been really hard to watch and even harder to know how to sincerely help. And for those of us who had a bit more distance, we may have had our own traumas or may have spent months sharing meals with loved ones in the protection of our homes. Some of us were on the front lines each day working to pay the bills, and others of us have benefited from the yield of a very strong stock market in very difficult times. With divides like these, there are just too few places to come together, to build bridges, to talk about partnerships, to meet new people, to care jointly for our community, to grow and learn and shift and make new connections. In his book, So You Want to Talk About Race, Ijama Oluo states, when we identify where our privilege intersects with somebody else's oppression, we'll find our opportunities to make real change. This year, these intersections have been so front and center for so many of us. And when we see them, we have to figure out what to do. How do we make that change? Perhaps it's here. Perhaps being part of this community with the Social Innovation Forum and opening ourselves to newer ways to support the change. As many of you know, SIF's mission is to build positive social change in Greater Boston by engaging leaders, strengthening organizations, and building networks. We are intentionally place-based. That means here, bringing local nonprofit leaders, organizations together with local funders and volunteers and investors like all of you. And we do that with the intention to make real change, to build those bridges. We want people to be in community. And sure, we've all been challenged by what community means this year, but that community still exists virtually, and we're all coming back in some kind of a way. On the purple side of our model, if you look to the right side, you see we invest in leaders and their organizations, and we do it for the long run. We work with organizations whose budgets are under $2 million, but generally under $1 million. And we build cohorts. Every year for 18 years, we've had a cohort. And today, you're going to meet 6 amazing organizations who are this year's cohort. And we spent 6 months getting to know them before their selection. They were selected from a pool of over 100 applicants, and we've spent December till now working in partnership with them to help them present the great work that they're doing. We know that they do amazing work, and we know they have the potential to grow. On the green side, it's people like all of you, several hundred funders, volunteers, supporters who make up what we call a community of more than a few thousand people who are willing to help. Openness to use resources and help others with social change. It's the potential of these linkages that shows the gear in the middle. It's the fuel. It's the way that we make connections and people get to know each other. It's reciprocal. The short of it, we work with strong leaders. They need to build new networks of friends and connections. And over our 18 years, we have helped move over $46 million locally, almost $8 million in the past year, to the 100 and so local nonprofit organizations who have been part of our portfolio and are serving this Greater Boston community. You might wonder who they are. Well, you can't miss the fact that these leaders are really leading. Our innovators are killing it. They're nimble and creative and thoughtful, and they work in partnership to uphold so many who are vulnerable and on the front lines. And with the many challenges this past year, we've seen leaders emerging everywhere. There's Green Roots, who's been organizing in Chelsea throughout the pandemic. We have the Cambodian Mutual Assistance Association up in Lowell and their leader, Sovana, who was front and center in the Asian American violence responses last month. And of course, there's Tina Sherry, who just passed the 25-year mark leading peacemaking work that is so close to her heart with the Louis D. Brown Peace Institute, promoting violence prevention and loss. So you might wonder, well, why are we here? What's this all about? Is there need for an intermediary to shake up the old systems? Maybe to help us forward with the change work that we all want to do? Our funders are learning, and they come to us and to one another because it's difficult to do change work alone, especially at this time. We all need partners and perhaps intermediaries like SIF to help us to do things like relationship building and bridge building and make connections to open doors. So what we're asking of you today is 3 small things. 1, listen to our groups, all 6 of them. Call them, show them how you can help. 2 is spread the word. Don't underestimate that sharing what you learn can open doors for others. Tell your neighbors, tell your coworkers, tell your family, because these groups are here for the long run. That we're working with them for 24 months, but then we support them long term, but they need new doors open. They need connections. And the last thing is loan support. Dollars are fantastic, but so are connections and relationships and a listening ear. Fill out a connection card or just pick up the phone and call someone. They really will be happy to hear from you. you can make a part, you can be a part of this. You can make connections and help with social change. So thank you. Thank you for being part of this, and thank you for supporting us. A few more thank yous before we bring the innovators on. First, to the SIF board for their time, their investment, and the support of all that the organization does. You can see their picture up on the screen. And most especially next to the staff, their small and mighty team who are working tirelessly on this work every single day and help weave it all together. And now, to move on to the presentations, I'd like to call up Tanya Inwald, our Director of Programs, to introduce the first innovator. Thank you so much, and welcome, Tanya.
Thank you, Susan. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. As you all know, today is a very important day for our innovators, as it is a culmination of almost a year of really hard work. It all started last June when they applied to be considered for the SIF Accelerator, along with over 100 other interested nonprofit organizations. They went through 2 rounds of written applications, intense evaluation and interview sessions with track partners and issue experts. We had virtual site visits with them and spent a lot of time in due diligence. And after 6 months of thorough vetting, we selected a cohort of 6 amazing groups to be the innovators and receive access to capacity building resources valued at over $150,000. These services include consulting, executive coaching, access to our in-kind partners, exposure to potential funders, and many more. This past year, we had to make many shifts and pivots to overcome the challenges brought by the global pandemic. And we're so grateful that our 2021 social innovators trusted our process and worked extra hard to be able to share their stories with you all today. And today is just the beginning of the innovators' journey with SIF. They'll keep on working with us for the next 18 months. And after that, they'll join our alumni network so we can continue supporting them in building their capacity, expanding their network, and providing access to new resources, all in order to increase the impact of their amazing work. And now, I would like to introduce our first innovator, Breaktime. On the track titled Anything Goes, Innovative, Effective, and Sustainable Approaches to Our Region's Toughest Social Issues, sponsored by the Boston Open Impact. Conor Schum is a co-founder and executive director of Breaktime. Recently recognized as Forbes 30 Under 30 for social impact, Conor is a young, emerging leader in the nonprofit world with a deep, infectious passion for empowering young people with opportunities and support they need to reach their full potential. Conor got his start in public service as Westboro's Project 351 ambassador in 2013. He served as chairman of the Governor's Statewide Youth Council, and most recently, he was a Chain Social Innovation Fellow at Harvard Kennedy School. Welcome, Conor.
Hi, my name is Conor Schum, and I'm the co-founder and co-executive director of Breaktime, a Boston-based nonprofit working to break the cycle of young adult homelessness. I grew up in Westboro, Mass, and as an 8th grader with a very corny bowl cut, I was selected as my town's ambassador to Project 351, a statewide organization that inspired me to start my own career in public service. When I enrolled at Harvard, Project 351 connected me with Y2Y, a SIF alum that provides shelter to young adults experiencing homelessness ages 18 to 24. At that same time, I was actually in my own process of coming out when I learned that 40% of young adults experiencing homelessness identify as LGBTQ+. The courage and resilience of the young people I worked with at that shelter absolutely changed my life and inspired me to come out and just be myself. And for that, I'm forever grateful. I believe that every single young person deserves the opportunities and support they need to reach their full potential. Unfortunately, according to the University of Chicago, 4.2 million young people experience some form of homelessness in a given year. Furthermore, 89% of these young people, 89%, are Black, Indigenous, or people of color. Communities of color already bear the brunt of society's challenges. And it is our obligation in dismantling systemic racism to end young adult homelessness. So, inspired by our previous experience in homelessness, Conor Schum, my co-founder, and I launched Breaktime in 2018. At first, we were working with some amazing organizations that already provide transitional housing, case management, and other supports to young adults experiencing homelessness. What we found in partnership with these organizations is that there was a gap in the system whereby we needed more transitional employment for these young people. What I mean by that is that a lot of young people get caught in this sort of cycle of homelessness. And to interrupt and intervene in that cycle, we need purposeful transitional jobs that help young people to attain stable employment as well as permanent housing. To fill this gap, Breaktime empowers young adults experiencing homelessness with purposeful transitional work opportunities that not only help them build sustainability in their lives, but also help them to build resilience in their communities. Specifically, we recruit young adults from other nonprofits. We provide 2 weeks of training focused on professional development and personal empowerment. We then co-fund the wages for our young adults to work for 3 months at $16 an hour at other nonprofits, where they do everything from data entry at food pantries to community health work at organizations like the American Heart Association. Ultimately, by the end of our program, we aim to have each of our associates engaged in full-time employment or education, equipped with permanent housing, good credit, and $1,000 plus in savings, and empowered with increased confidence and self-esteem. In the last year, Breaktime has already employed and empowered 50 young adults experiencing homelessness who have collectively served over 50,000 of their neighbors in need. According to our alumni, Breaktime is not just a job, it's a career propellant that gives people a sense of life and joy. Currently, we are just based in Boston, but we're working to expand to 2 new cities in Mass next year and 4 more cities in 2023. Also, we are working with the US Department of Labor, headed by our old mayor, and Michael Brown, the co-founder of City to prepare for national expansion. Breaktime has a unique mixed revenue model to finance our mission and reduce our dependency on philanthropy. We get $10 an hour per associate from our nonprofit employment partners, and we also have corporate partners who sponsor each of our cohorts. In addition, we just had the state Senate file a budget amendment to help fund our model and scale it statewide. In order to codify this funding into law and expand the funding, we need to demonstrate the replicability of our model to the state government. And that's where philanthropy comes in. We're asking for a highly leveraged $5 million investment in our work over the next 2.5 years. This will not only help us achieve financial sustainability, but it will launch the careers of 1,000 young adults experiencing homelessness and generate over $7 million in income for these young adults. I really hope that you'll join us in this mission to end young adult homelessness. And I have one simple request. Please use this link to schedule a 15-minute conversation with me in the next couple of days. I would love to talk with you. I would love to work with you. And I really appreciate your support. Thank you so much.
Conor, thank you so much. You've already accomplished so much so early in your career, and we hope that many more victories await you in Breaktime in the future. Just a quick reminder that if folks in the audience have questions for Conor or other innovators, we'll have a Q&A and networking session after the presentation. So add your questions in the Q&A box for a later discussion. And if you just want to show your support for the innovators, feel free to use the chat function and make sure to direct your chat to all panelists and attendees. So now I would like to introduce our second innovator, Comprehensive Reentry Program, a model of Project PLEAT, on the track titled Combating Recidivism Through Comprehensive Reentry Program, sponsored by the Wagner Foundation. Beth Carter is the Director of Reentry at Project PLEAT and has been working with the agency for over 10 years. Beth oversees grants, programs, and services to help formerly incarcerated individuals overcome the obstacles or reintegration into their community. She has over 20 years of experience in housing administration and law enforcement as a probation officer for the state of New York. Beth is committed to promoting transformative growth for marginalized groups, utilizing a holistic approach to effect change. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Beth Carter, and I'm the Director of Reentry at Project Place. I'm excited to share with you the story of our comprehensive reentry program. This program works with men and women who are returning to the community from incarceration. Our goal is to support individuals like Juan, pictured here, to make a smooth transition from prison to meaningful employment and independence. Project Place's tradition is when someone gets a full-time job, they ring the bell at our offices. Juan is now working full-time in sales for Adesso Auto Auctions. With their help, we can support others to ring the bell. The sad truth is Juan's path is not typical. The United States has a poor track record of supporting men and women leaving the prison system. Many individuals are released from prison only to reoffend within the first year. Last year, the national recidivism rate was 44% within the first year. In other words, 44% of individuals leaving prison reoffend and are back behind bars within 1 year of their release. I was a probation officer for over 7 years. Despite my best efforts, too many of my clients reoffended. They did so not because they didn't want to succeed on the outside, but because they lacked the support to succeed. I was frustrated that I couldn't offer more help. 9 years ago, I joined the Project Place community, hoping to address the lack of support that often leads someone back to prison. Last year, Project Place participants had a 9% recidivism rate compared to 44% nationally and 17% for the state of Massachusetts. For 50 years, Project Place has supported individuals experiencing homelessness secure stable housing and employment. Given the unique challenges that people returning from prison face, Project Place created services specifically for this population in 2003. This is how our comprehensive reentry program works. Phase 1, engagement. Project Place establishes a rapport with clients prior to release while they are incarcerated. Remember Juan? We met him when he was in prison. While behind the wall, Project Place offers classes, counseling, and career readiness workshops. Our staff attend pre-release hearings that help solidify transition plans with the participant's family and the community. In May of 2019, Juan was released and met with the familiar faces of the Project Place reentry team. Project Place is a bridge after release from incarceration. Recognizing this vulnerable time, we set individuals up for success by being a resource that helps mitigate life stressors. Phase 2, education and training. Once back in the community, participants receive weekly one-to-one case management and stabilization support around housing and mental health services. Clients begin in the work-ready classroom, moving to an internship where they prepare to test for industry certifications. Eventually, they move into on-the-job training to help them boost their confidence and build a resume while receiving a paycheck. Phase 3, employment. Lastly, we work with individuals to secure permanent employment and provide weekly support, staying connected with participants for at least 2 years post-placement. Project Place has a range of employer partners committed to providing individuals with a criminal record the opportunity to work. We partner with employers in industries that are growing and provide clients with the potential to advance. Last year, Project Place participants reported a wage range of $18 to $25 an hour. A key component of the comprehensive reentry model is transitional employment in one of Project Place's 3 social enterprises. Our 3 small businesses provide clients with hands-on learning in a supportive environment. The 3 businesses we run are facilities maintenance and janitorial services, food production and manufacturing, logistics and vending, and this is where Juan worked. Project Place has the stats to show our success. As I said earlier, our participants have a 9% recidivism rate versus 44% nationally. 70% employment rate upon graduation, an 80% employment retention after 1 year, 25% of project place staff are alumni. The cost of supporting an individual through the comprehensive reentry program from pre-release through permanent employment averages $8,500 per participant. This includes services behind the wall, case management, training, and participation in transitional employment. This is compared to keeping someone incarcerated, which is a cost to the taxpayer of $55,000. The cost effectiveness, not to mention the social impact, speaks for itself. Each year, correctional facilities around the state seek us out interested in bringing our reentry model to their communities. We are committed to meeting this demand by replicating the program over the next 3 years and expanding the comprehensive reentry program outside of Suffolk County. Over the next 2 years, we will work with at least 2 new facilities to implement our 3-step model: engagement, education, and employment. As demonstrated on the graph, this will allow us to serve additional participants, increasing participants served from 200 in 2021 to 350 in 2023. At this time, we are seeking an investment of $2.15 million to support the growth of the comprehensive reentry program over the next 2 years. I urge you to help break the revolving door of recidivism and create stability for fathers like Tyrone to chart their own path to independence. Today, he has sole custody of his beautiful son, Jaden, and works full-time at WB Mason. Together, we can set up families for generations of success. Join us in helping more people like Juan ring the bell and change lives through employment. Thank you.
Beth, thank you so much for sharing how much work you're all doing to support formerly incarcerated. Just a quick note that in addition to preparing their presentations, all of our innovators created a 4-page prospectus with more information about their work. We'll be sharing out links to the digital prospectuses in our follow-up email. And if you requested a hard copy when you registered, watch for it in the mail in the coming week. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our 3rd innovator, Immigrant Family Services Institute, or IFSI, on a track titled Advancing Education and Career Opportunities for Immigrant Youth, sponsored by the Wellington Management Foundation. Born and raised in Haiti, Dr. Gerald Gabo, the founder and executive director of Immigrant Family Services Institute, grew up in a large, joyful family. There was also always an extra plate at the table for someone who would otherwise go hungry. For the past 20 years, she has made it her passion to help new immigrants fully integrate into their community and has been working tirelessly to increase access to education and care for patients and increasingly other Caribbean immigrants in Greater Bay. Welcome, Dr. Gabo.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gerald Gabo. I was born and raised in Haiti. Since I came from a very large family, I learned very early on that the best gift that we can give to humankind is the gift of service. And I believe that I carried this gift with me all my life. When I moved to the US over 20 years ago, I had to learn a lot on my own. I had to navigate the complex system of the US. I can tell you this experience was not easy. That's the reason I made it a mission for me to help others go through the system. Martin, in this picture, a single mother with 3 children, is one of the typical families that come to us. Her desire is to put her children to school, find a job to care for her family, and even dream to go back to school. However, she has no idea about the intricacies of life in the US. Just as Martin, many immigrants who come here face the same challenges, whether it's language and cultural barriers, limited support services, the stresses of living in poverty, and lack of access to resources. That's the reason why I created the Immigrant Family Services known as IFSI. Our mission is to expedite the successful transition of immigrants into the social and economic fabric of the United States with justice and dignity. When we first started a couple of years ago, we were primarily serving the Haitian community. But little did we know that our neighbors, the Dominican Republic, Jamaica, and other Caribbean groups will join us. IFSI offers a comprehensive solution to our families using our three pillars: education, advocacy, and integration. Through education, we serve our children with after-school program, music program, summer, chess, coding. We also serve parents with English classes, computer classes, workforce development. To our advocacy, we join forces with other partners to fight for immigrants' rights. And to our integration, we are building a one-stop center where immigrants can have access to services in one place. You may wonder why IFSI. All of our staff are in and of the community. We build trust with our families and with our strategic partners. We serve the whole family. We are flexible in our approach and we are result-based oriented. IFSI has grown a lot over the years. However, we measure everything that we do to make sure that we are on the right path. From the number of children and adults that we serve, the quality of classes, the resources that we have, our staffing, everything is measured to make sure that we are on the right path. That's the reason why it's so easy to see the impact of our work. When people come to us, to our education, advocacy, and integration, everyone is so happy, joyful, integrated, and ready to serve. That's the reason why we are coming to you today. We have done a lot. There is so much more to be done. Our goal is to raise $1.4 million over 2 years to help us with our capacity building, to retain our staff, with program effectiveness, and finally with technology to help us build this online platform to serve immigrants in one-stop center. To go back to Martine, we were able to register her children to school, help them with music classes. We helped Martine get access to computer classes, English classes, build her resume, find a job. Now she's working as a CNA with the dream to go to the nursing school. This simple note that she shared with us is really meaningful. Thank you, IFSI, for giving me my life back. This is exactly what IFSI is about, giving people hope, giving them their life back. That's the reason why your investment in IFSI will help them fulfill their potential with dignity and respect. Thank you so much.
Dr. Gabo, thank you so much. Your energy and positivity are so infectious, and I'm certain it carries into the work that you do every day at IFSI. We really appreciate all of your work. And now it's time to shake things up a little bit. In a few minutes, we will have Jessica Barco, a wonderful singer and one of the students from Zoomix, which is one of our 2006 Social Innovators, come on screen and do a live performance. After all these years, we're so thankful for our partnership with Zoomix that continues even when we're all meeting remotely. So stay still for a bit. This piece will be about 4 minutes long, and we hope that you enjoy the song and use the chat to send words of encouragement. And please do not forget to send your questions through the Q&A.
Hello, everyone. Give me just 1 quick minute just for my audio really quick, just to check in my audio really quick. 1 quick minute, 1 quick. All right, we're all good. All right. Hi, everyone. There might be an echo, but let's go. Okay, so hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Barco, and I am a current ZoomX participant. Today, I'm performing my song Infinity, featuring J-Mix Beats, which is also a ZoomX alum. This song inspires me to take action in my life and community, just like I know that each individual here does today and does consistently. So I just want to address that and just want to say I'm super thankful and happy to be here, especially with people that, you know, are so focused on community change. The link to my song is in the chat, and I hope y'all can show some love, and I hope y'all can show and hope that we can all vibe together. So the song is called Infinity, and let's begin. One sec. I wish you could, I wish you could, I wish you could, I wish you could. I've never felt that before, the same call over and over, but not the door. Shut my eyes, keep your skies, do not see anymore. It's no surprise, and my dreams restored. What really is for sure, the only promise is self-assurance. If I hold my own hand, I bring perseverance. There has to be magic in solidarity. I wish you understanding, but never complacency. Showing up with my full splendor, shining under pressure, all to become a diamond. Showing up with my drive, no ignition, making my fairy tales realistic fiction. One day at a time in infinity, where I believe in possibilities. Taking steps to learn to let it breathe, let it be. One day at a time, oh, one day at a time. I'm on that low key shining, on that low key finding what's for me you can't take from me. I live life abundantly. On that low key finding collapsing stars that come in the sky. I can't fall apart, no. We can't fall apart, no. You can come my wings, I still rise above. God got it, I can fly above. Oh, you can burn my garden, I'll still bloom. You can cut the flowers, we're still in the roots. Oh, this is a pick you up, this is a pick me up. There's winning in the delay, please stand up. How can you not? How can we not? One day at a time in infinity, where I believe in possibilities. Taking steps to learn, so let it breathe, let it be. One day at a time, oh, one day. Thank you so much.
Jessica, thank you so much. You have an amazing voice. Fantastic job today. And thank you again to our friends over at ZoomX. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Dingy, and I'm a program manager at the Social Innovation Forum. And it is such a pleasure to be here with all of you today. And I am so grateful for the 2021 Social Innovator cohort. Before I introduce the next presenter, I would like to extend a couple of thank yous to people who have been working really hard with the innovators to make sure that they get all of the support that they need. Their help and support was particularly meaningful during these challenging times, and I'm truly amazed that we were able to continue with our process and keep things very similar to last year's virtual experience. Our wonderful consultants worked tirelessly with our innovators. They started in January and stayed calm, supportive, flexible, resourceful, and as always, extremely helpful. I'd also like to thank the presentation advisors, pitch panelists, and other folks in our network who helped our innovators prepare for today. Everyone was flexible and patient, yet still as excited as always to support our innovators. Our in-kind partners have been instrumental in supporting the presenters today, especially the Ariel Group and Kenny Raskin in particular, who has spent so many hours on Zoom with our teams. Thank you also to all those who volunteered on the nomination and evaluation committees to help select this amazing cohort. Finally, I'd like to acknowledge our executive coaches, many of whom are with us today, who will work with our innovators at the next stage of their SIF journey. And now on to our next innovator, Everyday Boston, on the track titled Dismantling Hate and Building Social Cohesion Within and Across Communities, sponsored by the Becker Foundation. Kara Solomon is the founder and executive director of Everyday Boston. A graduate of Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism, she began her career as the editor of a street newspaper in Los Angeles and went on to become a reporter for the Hartford Courant and the Seattle Times. She also created a website, The Small Story, which featured her own reported featured stories about everyday people whose lives she found interesting. A native of Wayland, Massachusetts, she currently lives in Jamaica Plain. Welcome, Kara.
Hi there, my name is Kara Solomon, and I am the founder and executive director of Everyday Boston. And we are a nonprofit that connects neighbors across a divided city through the sharing of stories. So I'm going to start with a story of my own. A few years ago, I found myself in the basement of the Ashley Street YMCA, surrounded by fifth graders who were interviewing me about my life. And a tall, thin boy at the back asked me if I had a dad. And I said, no, he died when I was a baby. And the room went quiet, and I said, don't worry, my mom and I did okay. And then 5 minutes later, the boy raised his hand again, and he asked me, what was your father's dream for you? And I just had never thought about that. So I said, well, I heard he was kind, so maybe his dream for me was that I would be kind. And this little boy looked at me and he said, you are kind. And it turned out that his dad had died 6 months earlier. And so there we were, this 46-year-old Jewish woman and this 11-year-old Hispanic boy with a cross around his neck. And in that moment, I belonged to him and he belonged to me. And we may never see each other again, but I will carry that boy with me for the rest of my life. And I bet he'll carry me with him too. And that's just what we humans were designed to do. The problem is we're not doing it enough. We've got public health officials warning us of a loneliness epidemic. We're still one of the most segregated cities in America. More often than not, we see each other as strangers, not neighbors. And we're just not doing what research says makes us happier and healthier, what makes our cities safer and more equitable, and our workplaces more productive. And that is connect. So at Everyday Boston, we're bringing that back through a scientifically proven solution, the sharing of stories. A good story literally lights up our brain and makes us more empathetic and willing to work with each other. I saw this all the time as a reporter. And it's why I created Everyday Boston in partnership with 4 community leaders of different ages and races, all of whom believed in the power of stories to bridge this city's divides. So we started Everyday Boston in their neighborhoods, Roxbury, Charlestown, Dorchester, Mission Hill. And over time, it grew organically into schools and universities and workplaces and most recently prisons. It's a pretty simple model. First, we help Bostonians develop listening and communication skills. Then we provide them with opportunities to connect. Story by story, we're working to make Boston the most connected city in America. Here are our tools. We've developed a training that strengthens critical soft skills through learning how to interview somebody else about their life. And we do this with people of all ages, from middle school students to employee managers to people coming home from prison. Then after they've gone through the training, we offer people the opportunity to sit down with somebody they don't know and record their life stories. And these stories then are later published in our online story library, which we like to call A Portrait of the People of Boston by the People of Boston. We also run story share events in libraries and other public spaces across the city. Since 2018, we've engaged 1,500 residents, worked with nearly 50 community partners, and published more than 70 stories online. We've also developed story collecting partnerships with research institutions on racial justice issues, from the cradle to prison pipeline to vaccine hesitancy in communities of color. This is what we can do with very limited fundraising and one full-time employee, and that's me. Now is the time to scale this work, so here are our strategic priorities. Over the next couple of years, we're going to deepen our impact with young people by working with more partners like the Y and creating a story collecting core for teens, which we're launching this summer thanks to a $7,500 matching grant from the Good People Fund. We're going to ramp up our bridge project for incarcerated and formerly incarcerated people by providing more paid opportunities to work in the community with us. We're going to develop that story library I mentioned into an educational resource for schools and other communities. And we're going to partner with more workplaces to help them strengthen a culture of belonging inside their communities and deepen their connection to the surrounding city. By adding strategic partners in all of these areas, we're going to increase our reach to 3,000 people a year and really jumpstart this movement across the city. We're going to add 2 full-time staff. We're going to increase stipends for youth and returning citizens and add development and operations expertise to boost our fundraising and better measure our impact. We're seeking $484,000 to put us on this sustainable path. So I want to leave you with a question. What if, at a time of historic divisions, when we've forgotten how to talk to each other and we've forgotten how to listen to each other, Boston pulled ahead, surprised pretty much everyone, and became the most connected city in America? We can do this. We've got the grit, the creativity, the intelligence, every corner of this city to make it happen. And now is the time. Thank you for listening.
Kara, thank you so much. It's so good for us to lean into kindness and share our stories with the world. Before we move forward, I would like to mention our connection cards. If you want to connect with an innovator, fill out a connection card and we will pass it along. The link should be posted in the chat and will also be included in our follow-up email as well. And now I would like to introduce our next innovator, Neighbor to Neighbor Massachusetts Education Fund, on the track titled Promoting a Healthy Democracy Through Civic Engagement and Community Empowerment, sponsored by the Civic Engagement Funder Collaborative. Elvis Mendes is the co-executive director of Neighbor to Neighbor Massachusetts. Prior to joining Neighbor to Neighbor, Elvis has led organizing efforts for National Guest Worker Alliance, now Resilience Force, Immigrant Worker Center Collaborative, and Warehouse Workers for Justice. Elvis was born in the Dominican Republic and grew up in Framingham, Massachusetts. He has a bachelor's degree in social thought and political economy from the University of Massachusetts Amherst and is completing his master's of science in labor industrial relations. Welcome, Elvis.
Hi, my name is Elvis Mendes. I'm the co-director of Neighbor Neighbor Massachusetts. It's a pleasure to be with you. A little over a year ago, how many of us could have imagined that we would be living through a crisis that fundamentally disrupted every facet of our lives? Even fewer of us could have foreseen that some people would continue to earnestly believe that the ongoing crisis was a hoax. Many parallels can be drawn between COVID-19 and the climate crisis. But what I want you to focus on today is this. In our polarized society, even during crisis, truth alone will not win out. We need to organize, which means we need to build and persuade across difference, address the tools of division directly, and center the most impacted communities in our political representation and in our policymaking. At Neighbor to Neighbor, we've been developing tools and methodologies to break these information silos, build multiracial coalitions, and champion people and policies that will work for the benefit of us all. We're asking everyone to join us in this fight because all of us are invested in the outcome. Now, we know the climate crisis is well underway, and it will disrupt the lives of every living being across the planet. Communities of color will be disproportionately impacted by the crisis due to already being subject to greater environmental harm. In Massachusetts, we also have a voting and representation gap among communities of color. This voting and representation gap is leading to environmental policies that harm us all, people of color most acutely. Now, we have members living across the state with contaminated water, others with waste stations built in their neighborhoods and landfills proposed down the block. These are failures of policy and representation, but more than that, they're what environmentalist Rob Nixon has called acts of slow violence. This is harm. It's harm that occurs gradually, out of sight, and over time, but with devastating consequences. It's harm that is further minimized because it's happening to people whose voices are already seen as marginal. Neighbor to Neighbor is best positioned to lead on this front because we are led by people from these communities and because of our unique organizational model and methodology. Neighbor to Neighbor is a statewide people's organization based in gateway cities with a 501c3 and a 501c4. We strategically target tens of thousands of neglected, infrequent voters in working class communities of color to support candidates and legislation that champion climate mitigation, adaptation, and resiliency. Here's how our organizing model works. We build relationships with people in the community through issue advocacy and electoral campaigns that are based on shared values. Values like love, solidarity, integrity, imagination, to get them to take collective action. In the process, overcoming fear and isolation to combat structural inequalities. We tackle issues of climate and environmental harm by addressing the material needs our members care about. Better housing and transportation, cleaner cities, good jobs. Like when our 501c3 education fund led the closing of Mount Tom coal plant, converting it to a solar field. Or when our 501c4 has helped elect many climate champions like Congressman Jim McGovern and just last year, our member, State Senator Adam Gomez. In doing so, we help people work together across racial differences to create a healthier democracy and more equitable and resilient communities. The key to making this all work is effective community engagement methods. Over the last year, Neighbor to Neighbor has been developing a community outreach approach known as deep canvassing with national partners that has proven to be the most effective method for shifting opinions among voters. In last year's presidential election, our 501c4 worked with our partners People's Action and Pennsylvania to shift opinions among voters. Just under half of the people we engage shifted their opinion in a positive direction, and a quarter moved from one end of the spectrum to another. This year, we're partnering with People's Action, sister organizations in New York City and Minneapolis, and faculty at Columbia University to test these movement and persuasion rates with low-income communities of color in local elections. To that end, we are asking for a 2-year, $500,000 investment in our deep canvassing program to shift climate perception among different communities and spur the adoption of policies supporting climate action and preparedness in Massachusetts. This investment would go towards program iteration and development, and most importantly, towards training and hiring 12 to 14 member leaders to lead volunteer teams to knock on an average of 100,000 doors each year. We know that to solve these complex problems, it takes a multifaceted approach. And as an organization based in working class communities of color, operating with an intersectional framework, and it underlies everything that we do. Before he was taken from us, Our brother and late neighbor organizer Jafet Robles posed to all of us this question. What do you want to be remembered for? At Neighbor, we want to be remembered as an organization that helped close the voting gap and spurred action on the most pressing challenge of our time by strengthening our most vulnerable communities. We hope to count on your support in this effort. Thank you.
Elvis, many thanks to you and the whole Neighbor to Neighbor team for all the work you're doing across the state of Massachusetts. And just a reminder for folks, if you have questions for our innovators, we'll be having a Q&A shortly, so please share your questions in the chat. And now I would like to introduce our final innovator of the day, the Loop Lab, on the track titled Reinventing Remote Learning Opportunities During and Beyond the COVID-19 Pandemic, sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance. Christopher Hope is the founder and executive director of the Loop Lab, a nonprofit dedicated to advancing workforce development for women and people of color in the media arts field. He will be serving on the board of directors for Mass Hire Metro North Workforce Board starting this spring. A longtime resident of Cambridge, Chris is also a graduate of Tufts University and Harvard Divinity School, and is the principal owner of a minority-focused professional staffing agency, Equity Intelligence. And as a media arts and digital storytelling organization, the Loop Lab has taken this opportunity to showcase their talent and creativity in this upcoming video. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Chris Hope.
I want to tell you about Renee. In 1990, Renee has a desire to work in media, and in pursuit of her dream, she goes to college. She takes an internship at the local television station as a camera operator in the newsroom. She is thrilled and overwhelmed to be working in a real TV studio. But Renee is not your average intern. Renee is Black, a woman with children. She stands out, but not for the reasons she wants to be recognized for. As you can expect, she is a victim of microaggressions and sexual harassment. And when she speaks up, she's told that it's just the nature of the media industry. Choosing mental health over her dream, she quits. As the years go by, she hops from job to job, never as excited as she was in that TV studio. She wonders what life could have been like had she continued. And at the age of 57, the light that once burned bright is extinguished when Renee dies from a heroin overdose. My name is Christopher Hope, and I am the founder and executive director of the Loop Lab. I received my BA from Tufts University and Master of Divinity from Harvard Divinity School. My expertise is in workforce development and the audiovisual industry. My personal mission is to advance equity in the tech workforce by creating opportunities and intersections between communities of color and the tech economy. This mission had led me to underserved communities in Greater Boston, where I've witnessed the lost potential of so many young Black and brown people due to unemployment, violence, and drugs. Young people like Renee not only need professional training, but also need help pursuing careers in the AV industry. 31% of young people in Greater Boston are living in poverty. Black, brown, immigrant families are struggling to attain decent work, stable housing, and a reliable paycheck. While Cambridge reported nearly $8 billion a year in wages paid to professionals, the largest share of the people of color labor workforce is employed almost exclusively in security and in maintenance. Only those who already possess financial stability can pursue the types of unpaid internships that prepare young people for success in the AV industry after high school. That's why the Loop Lab was created. The Loop Lab is a nonprofit social enterprise whose mission is to empower women and people of color in media arts in Greater Boston. Unlike traditional vocational training programs focused solely on job placement, the Loop Lab provides 3 types of opportunities for our apprentices: free education, secure employment, and attainable entrepreneurship. There is no better example of the transformative results of the Loop Lab's curriculum than the story of Tevin Charles. Because Tevin was institutionalized for a crime he committed as a teenager, his options were limited. At the age of 23, he was unemployed and could not afford college. But because he was a Loop Lab apprentice, he landed a full-time job as a podcast producer for Cambridge Public Library. The Loop Lab operates a production studio which employs our apprentices to produce video content for organizations and companies looking for high-quality content at competitive rates. In 2020 alone, we provided over 1,800 hours in paid work to students. Not only are Loop Lab apprentices gaining stable employment above the living wage in Massachusetts, they're also giving back to their communities. With our unique model of hands-on skill building and mentorship, the Loop Lab prepares its students for sustainable success in media-focused jobs. Also unique to our program is validating entrepreneurship. The Loop Lab curriculum provides students the key essentials of business development, like creating proposals, pitches, invoicing, project management, and so on. With the help of the Loop Lab, Tevin started his own clothing company, Big Wave Clothing, and in 2020, he received a startup grant. Tevin is just one of many apprentices who continue to find success with the help of the Loop Lab. In 2021, the number of students enrolled in the Loop Lab programs grew from 10 per year to 50. In 2023, that number will grow to 75 students. We also see an increase in Loop Lab graduates' income by 36% per year, and that will grow to 55% by 2023. What is the future of the Loop Lab? How can we continue to harness the talents and passions of more young people like Tevin? In 2021, 46% of our total revenue as an organization will be generated through earned income from our production studio and other contracted work. With an investment from you, we will be able to increase our earned revenue to 62% by 2023. We are asking for $1.8 million over the next 2 years to support our growth. With strong financial support from donors, we can double our full-time staff, and this will increase the number of students that we can serve with our programming threefold. And if we could serve more women and people of color who would have been left out of that TV studio, we will see a renaissance of representation in media. We will see a shift in the economic opportunities for communities of color. Outcomes like Renee's are all too common. How many more young people can we help to achieve a different outcome? We have shown in a short amount of time what you can achieve when you surround students with critical supports. I often think about what my life would have been like had my mother, Renee Hope, had the proper support to pursue her dream as a camera operator. This is why we hope that you will join us in our fight to advance equality and equity in the media arts workforce. Your giving will make a significant difference in the lives of talented young people. Thank you.
Chris, thank you so much. We loved seeing your work in action today. And thank you again to the 2021 cohort of Social Innovators for the wonderful presentations. And as a reminder, we'll have some time later this afternoon to network and spend time together. But before we do, I will now bring forward Carolyn Shaughnessy, SIF's Director of Network Engagement and our staff moderator for the Q&A portion of our program today. Welcome, Carolyn.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Sarah, and congratulations to our social innovators. Those presentations were amazing and they reflect your amazing work. We're excited to have a chance to hear a bit more from each of you as we move into our Q&A. I'm sure we won't get to everyone's questions, but I encourage everyone joining today to reach out to our social innovators and have your questions answered directly. I think as we all know, it's been a hard year to meet new people, and so your outreach would be so, so welcome. So with that, I'm going to jump into some questions. Our innovators, I hope, are ready. Beth, I'm going to start with you. What is something that the audience should understand about individuals who are returning to the community from incarceration?
This is a great question because people often can't visualize where someone in reentry came from, what they might look like, and who they were prior to being incarcerated. So individuals in reentry are people who look like you and me. They are people with families who come from all walks of life, varied education, experiences, and socioeconomic status. And when they return to the community, they're highly motivated to make change in their lives, and all they really want is an opportunity to prove their worth and be able to give back to the community.
Thanks, Beth. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I am going to turn to Kara. Kara, one of our viewers mentioned that Everyday Boston has such a unique mission, and they're curious to know what kind of impacts Everyday Boston seeks to achieve, and how are you thinking about measurement?
Thank you so much, Carolyn, for that question. I think firstly, on the numbers front, we do we track the number of neighbors that we're connecting across the city. And so far, that's been about 1,500 in the past few years. And we've worked with nearly 50 partners in different contexts, whether that's schools or universities or nonprofits, workplaces. And then I think what's been encouraging about this is that everywhere we've taken this programming, there's been a lot of enthusiasm. And so we're working with people of different ages and different backgrounds. And when we give them surveys, survey after survey, they say that they would recommend this programming to other people. And we're actually working with a CIF partner, pro bono partner, the analysis group, which we're very excited about, to expand our range of tools to measure our impact. But I will say that because I'm a reporter, I tend to think in terms of, reporter at heart. I tend to think of impact in terms of the stories of people that have gone through our programming. And so I often actually think about this boy who went through our training in school and interviewed his teacher about her life. And when I asked the boy, how did it feel? How would you get out of it? He said, it was like an adventure in my mind. And that to me is just awesome for a couple of reasons, right? Number one, he sat across from somebody that he didn't know that well and came away totally energized and excited about the experience. And number two, he really was developing these critical soft skills that he's going to need in school and at home and ultimately at work. And so we really want to be giving people all across Boston this kind of opportunity to connect and to develop their skills, because it not only helps our city, but it really helps people individually to find their place in the world and to connect with their neighbors.
Great. Thank you, Kara. Kara, I have to say today has been an adventure in my mind. I love that phrase. So we haven't seen Conor in a while. So Conor, we had a question that came in for you. Just wondering, what is your approach to recruit young people who are experiencing homelessness?
Great question. So the way that I think about our recruitment process is, instead of providing a spare tire, we want to add an extra support spoke to someone's support wheel. What I mean by that is all of our recruitment comes through referrals from case managers and other folks supporting a young person at another organization. So some of the organizations listed in my presentation, including More Than Words, Home for Little Wanderers, Y2Y, they're nominating young people to be associates in Breaktime's program. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to meet a young person where they're at and loop in their existing support system right away, so that there's no disruption in the services that they're receiving from that other organization. Because what can sometimes happen if a young person independently seeks an opportunity is it can disrupt the services they qualify for, the services they're previously receiving. So we want to create that continuity of care, and for that reason, we do our recruitment all through that nomination process. Also, it's a really robust way and vetting process to get the right young people who are a good fit for these opportunities, because we have experts who are vetting and nominating all the folks who come through our doors.
Thanks, Conor. That's a great clarification. I appreciate hearing that. Elvis, I'm going to turn to you. Can you talk a little bit more about what deep canvassing actually is? And can you maybe give an example?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Carolyn, for the question. I think we've all had the experience of someone maybe from out of town coming to our door, quickly knocking, flipping through a script, asking us our opinion on who knows what, and then running off to the next door. And it leaves us confused. We're not really sure what that was about. And it doesn't really establish or oftentimes even stick in our minds or in our hearts. With deep canvassing, it's an approach where we're really trying to build an emotional connection. It's a process of deep listening, non-judgmental listening, helping folks really come to understand and address cognitive dissonance through a conversation that allows folks to think about their own lived experience and how that might address or be related to the issue that we're speaking to at hand. It's a process that's been developed in California around issues of LGBT rights and healthcare fights in Minnesota. And it's been something that we've been employing now more on the doors in Western Massachusetts around housing and transportation.
Great. Thank you very much, Elvis. So I'm going to ask a question to Gerald. Dr. Gabo, so you have an amazing energy for your work. And our audience is curious, what motivates you to do the work you do every day? There's a lot of intensity there.
Thank you, Caroline. To me, it's my calling. So I believe that I was born to serve, and I believe I was born to connect with people and to put them to the path, of success. And every single time we meet with a new family, a new mother or a new father, and then they come to us and we are able to sit down with them, help them, guide them to the process. And at the end of the day, for them to come back and say, wow, thank you so much. You made my day, or you helped me to do X, Y, Z. Every time we can bring a smile to someone's face gives us great, great joy to do the work. And that's the reason why we keep on doing the same thing every single day. We build a family atmosphere because we know when immigrants come here, they miss so much of the connection that they used to have. And here we build that connection for them. We remind them that we are here for them, to serve them. And that's what keeps us moving, because we know that families will come after families, and then we are preparing the next generation of people ready to serve. So that gives me great joy, because exactly I'm doing what I am called to do. So that's it.
Thank you, Gerald. I get the sense you build a family wherever you go.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn to Chris and the Loop Lab. Chris, you talked about both internships and apprenticeships. Can you share with us in your program what the difference is?
What a really great question. First off, I would like to thank SIF. I would like to thank Wendy Grossman, my executive coach in this process. This has been a wonderful opportunity. There's two parts to answering that question. The first part is really getting into the fact that apprenticeships are really about learning a career, whereas the internship is more about learning a particular job or individual job. And so really another way to frame that is internship is about doing a specific work at a company that is very specific to that particular job, whereas an apprenticeship is really about working in capacity in that field. Another way to reframe that is essentially you'll never see an internship for an electrician work, right? You'll see an apprenticeship for within the electrician field, but whereas with the internship, that could be very problematic. And so as essentially not only a company or an organization, but also a certified host through the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for apprenticeships, our young adults are really gaining up capacity to be able to work in the audio video field, essentially across the board. Everything from being able to do something like this, such as a broadcast. Big shout out to the broadcasters here, AVFX, all the way to doing work in sound design and radio.
Excellent. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, I'm going to turn to Conor. Conor, how does Breaktime leverage in-kind resources to maximize the impact of every dollar of philanthropic support that you receive?
Yeah, so at Breaktime, we are rigorously committed to being extremely cost effective. So for fiscal year 2020, only 3% of our costs were administrative or fundraising related, which is well below industry standard, which is 20%. And the way we're able to do that is because we have incredible in-kind partners who support us with our payroll needs, with all of our accounting functions, even some HR functions. We have the analysis group as well and other partners who help us with evaluation. We even have a partner who provides plants to our space for free. We have partners who support us with advising and consulting pro bono. And a lot of our core operational expenses are covered through those partnerships and other partnerships that we've developed over the years to ensure that we're able to put as many cents on the dollar as possible to actual direct program expenses.
Thank you, Conor. We absolutely at SIF know the value of in-kind partners. So appreciate you sharing that here. I am going to turn to Beth again. Beth, let's see, I just lost my question. Can you identify a few of the best practices utilized by the Comprehensive Reentry Program that contribute to the overall effectiveness?
Yes, the first best practice I would identify is the strong kind of community partnerships we have with stakeholders in the criminal justice system, community non-based, or community-based organizations, and employer partners. Like these partnerships allow us to provide those services, advocate for the needs of our clients, and help individuals secure employment. The second best practice I would identify is the agency's 2-year commitment to assist clients after they've graduated programming. Project Place realizes transformative change takes some time, right? So we stay connected with participants at least 2 years post-programming to ensure that they have the support necessary to continue on in their journey, kind of focusing on personal goals, managing setbacks, and maintaining their employment and growing their career.
Thank you, Beth. Agree that change takes time and we need to stay with each other for the long term. That's a great point. I am going to turn to Gerald again, Dr. Gabo. What are the challenges of immigrants who arrive with with very different skill levels, and how do you meet them? And the question goes on, how do you build trust with the community and ensure that your programs are culturally appropriate?
Again, great question. The first thing is one big issue that IFSI is trying to really tackle is the issue of brain waste. We have a lot of wonderful professionals, young professionals who have worked, for years in their home countries. They have degrees, they are ready to serve, and they are here with us. Unfortunately, because of legal issues, because of immigration laws, they are not able to put their talent into good use. So our goal is to really fight for those, professionals, especially in the healthcare field, who are here. And so many of us, called us during COVID-19. They wanted to be there to help, to support. And again, they could not do it. So the way that we build connection with is that we bring this network of people together. We meet with them. We try to help them identify resources, things that they can do so they can still continue on their pathway. So we have, for example, a surgeon who is here with us. He cannot practice surgery the same way that he used to do it in Haiti. However, we want him to be in the field of, medicine. So he went to get an NCLEX, class so that he can have a degree in nursing. So we build, partnership with everyone that we know. And partnership, I think, is our key. So we build partnership all around Boston to bring resources to them. And one thing that we always say to them, we are here for you. And that's one of the landmark of our organization. We are here to serve our people, not the other way around. And whatever it takes, that's what we do to bring resources to them. So we fight day in and day out to bring resources and to build relationships.
Thank you, Gerald. I think that emphasis on partnerships is such an important one, that this work doesn't happen alone. And I'll go back to what Beth said, it takes time. So yes. Long partnerships, staying with each other. I'm going to turn to Kara for the next question. Kara, from a practical standpoint, how would Boston benefit from becoming a more connected city? I think an important question in this moment.
Yes, thank you for that question. Well, I think, how much time do you have? Essentially, I think in all kinds of ways, first of all, when we talk about connection, there are all kinds of studies that actually show that that when we are missing connection, it's actually bad for our health, for instance. So it's a public health issue. It's an issue of equity when we are connected as neighbors instead of strangers. We want the best for each other in a way that that isn't always the case right now. When we connect, our city overall is just simply safer and more inclusive and just better to live in for all of us. But I think also just individually, as I mentioned that story with the boy, it helps us in life overall. So if each of us has these or developing these skills, whether it's, close listening or it's asking follow-up questions, or it's being able to talk to people you don't know or don't necessarily understand, that's going to help us in all areas of our life. And it's going to make our city something that currently it's not. For however awesome Boston, however wicked awesome we are right now, we can be a lot better if we actually start connecting across dividing lines. So,
thanks, Kara. I think we see that in the SIF ecosystem all the time, building connections across people who come from different places and what a difference that makes. So thank you. Elvis, I'm going to turn to you. I like this question. What advice do you have for anyone new to organizing but wishing to advocate for social issues in their community?
Thank you, Caroline. That is a really great question. I think that, so our approach is really rooted in being able to talk to folks in our neighborhoods. So my first instinct would be there are usually elders in your neighborhood, in your community, who have been championing many of the issues that might concern you. And being able to connect with those folks is instrumental in helping understand the city, what the partners are. A lot of times, the work that we do can't be done in isolation. You really need to build coalitions. We need to bring in so many folks, and being able to connect with some of those elders, maybe the community leaders, pastors, folks who hold certain social capital in our communities, in our cities is really important. So for us, that's part of our built-in organizing strategy. We make sure that we hire folks from the base, usually members who were super volunteers, who became really active, who demonstrated their leadership capacity. And these folks know the neighborhoods. They are many times, we've got a couple folks who are second and third generation members, right? And so that allows us, and it gives us an institutional memory and a credibility in the community that it's hard to replicate. So I would suggest to folks to take a similar approach. Talk to someone you don't maybe know. It'll help all of us. Start at that right away.
Very much appreciate that practical advice and that question of how to engage. I think that's an important question for everyone to ask today. Like, I learned something today, what can I do? I'm going to turn to Chris from the Loop Lab. Chris, well, it looks like this is a great project with lots of traction in Boston, given the Kendall Square startup community. How does this play out if you want to scale?
That's a wonderful question. I've been thinking about this question also, and as a team, we're in deep conversation about this. We have lots of plans of scalability. We're always about leveraging and maximizing and amplifying our mission. Although it's with that in mind, one of the things I will say is that a big part of this is self-sustaining. And so 92% increase in our wages for the alumni that are graduating from our program. We want to increase that. Over in the last 2 years, we've tripled our income through pivoting with our income generating production team. I would say that ultimately, when we talk about the Loop Lab model as it pertains to other areas, other communities outside of Greater Boston, that is a much longer answer, really too long for this platform. But definitely, I am open to having it. So please, if an individual is interested in that, feel free to reach out to me, chope@thelooplab.org, or join me in the networking conversation after this.
That's great. I think that's great advice, Chris, for people who have bigger questions. The best thing to do is email or reach out to our innovators. I am going to ask Conor another question. Conor, can you share more about the income that you're generating?
Yes, I assume that's in reference to our partner income. Our nonprofit employment partners at which we staff all of our associates pay us $10 an hour per person that we're staffing at their sites. So we pay our Yanagos through our payroll, $16 an hour. We also have a match savings stipend of up to $50 a week that we provide to help them leave our program with over $1,000 in savings. So the $10 per hour that the nonprofit is paying us is just a partial cost reimbursement to establish a steady earned income stream that can really bolster and support the work that we're doing. We believe it's important that nonprofits invest in each of our associates so that there's a shared interest in the success of that young person and so that they're treated professionally as an employee. But we understand that all of our organizations are strapped for resources. So we want to subsidize that organization's ability to build their own capacity to do the great work that they're doing. So if the question was in reference to our partner income, that's how that works. In addition, our other earned income stream is from the government. So currently, if you go on the state Senate's website, you can see the two bills that Breaktime is sponsoring for this legislative session. Amendment 744, which reforms the language of the Youth Works line item to expand youth opportunities in Massachusetts to LGBTQ+, BIPOC, and other young adults experiencing homelessness, as well as Amendment 822, which would fund the match savings component of our model. So the state and also city income is an additional income stream for us that directly supports the work that we're doing.
Thanks for clarifying that, Conor. Gerald, I have a question for you. So what would your first step be? What need would be met if you received a major gift tomorrow? So that was a question that came in through the Q&A. So I don't know what that means, but I love that question.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah. Currently, one of our major goal is to really develop this app. It's we call it the Navigator app. It's a way to really help new immigrants to access resources, at the tip of their hand that they can really connect. Because as so many of you mentioned, connection is so important when you come to a country that you don't know. So building that connection, building that app to help people to connect, not only to people, but to services is a great thing that we are hoping to do. And the next one is really because we love human touch. We love to be with each other. So it's to really build that one-stop navigator center, like a nice facility where we bring all of the providers in one place so that when someone comes with a child and wants to go to school and wants to find a job, that person doesn't have to make 50 calls or go to 50 different places. That person will find all the services in one place. And that's our dream. We cannot wait for this to be accomplished because we know it will have a huge impact on so many families. That's a great question.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gerald. That app sounds like a fabulous idea. So I'm going to pause our questions here. I am going to give a huge thank you to our innovators for being under the hot lights today. I'm going to encourage everyone here to please reach out to them directly. I know our audience and our community worries that you're busy. And I also know that you want those emails and you want those phone calls and want to have those conversations. So I'm going to turn this over to Tony Howland, who is SIF's board chair. He wants to take a minute to appreciate our social innovators and all of our guests today.
Thank you again, all the innovators, for all the work you're doing, and thanks to the audience for being here and welcoming you more fully into the SIF community. As Carolyn has just said, I am the board chair of SIF, a longtime community member, involved participant and supporter of many of SIF's groups over the years. I come to the showcase each year because it is inspirational and gives me hope. To get to the real change in this community that we all want, we've learned, especially this year, that it's critical that we listen to those in the community and those who are closest to the challenges. We've been hearing that loud and clear for many years, but it's hard to miss that message this year. The SIF leaders who you've been seeing today see and know their work, and they need partners like you to help them. As a funder and a supporter community, we know that we need to shift our focus and follow those who have been leading for a long time and have lived the experience that counts so much in this work. Let's support these innovators to help guide and direct where the money and support should go. We'll now move into the networking piece of the event where you can spend some more time with our innovators. There is a link in the chat now, and I look forward to seeing you there.